excellent. So I think we'll make a start because we have got people joining us and we have only got 30 minutes and I've got lots of questions. So for those joining us and for those people that don't know me, I'm Lisa Collins and I work for the IABM. And I had the surprising pleasure today of moderating the panel with our buyers. It wasn't due to be me, but I'm pleased that I'm here. So just to introduce everybody and who we've got. So we have Renard Jenkins, who is VP Production, Integration and Creative Technology Services at WarnerMedia. We have Jorge Delanuez, who's Head of Technology and Operations at the Olympic Channel, and he's in Madrid. And we have Joe Way, who's Director of Learning Environments at the University of Southern California. And all of the guys with us today are those buyers of your kit and equipment. And traditionally, when I speak to the people on our panel today, we'd be talking about, you know, what technology investments you're going to be looking at in the future. But this time, we're going to change the focus and look at marketing and what really draws these guys into your marketing messages and how you might be able to make some improvements. So I want to start with my first question to each of you, and that's about trying to understand where you go to investigate your future purchases. Is that a particular show? Is it a particular platform? And Joe, maybe we can come to you on that one first.
Yeah, you know, I think it's not any one place, but it's a little of everything, right? You know, if you want to say where you go, I mean, the big shows and stuff is probably where most of my vertical, being in higher ed, like an Infocom and an ISCs, those are probably the big ones. I would have said NAB, but can't say that now. You know, those would be the big shows where at least we can go and meet and see and tinker and play. But beyond that, I think a lot of it comes from personal relationships. Getting those reps who come out to you, who give you the opportunity to have real conversations about not just what the little box does, but how it solves the problem. And it's those relationships that then drive you to, you know, hit up their website, attend a webinar that might be being held, go to the show and meet with them. And so I think it's kind of multifaceted, but I think it starts with the relationships first.
And obviously shows haven't been taking place over the last 18 months. Is there a particular platform that you've been going to investigate your purchases, or is it really, you know, just surfing around the websites to look?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the media, to give a little bit of props to our industry, I think a lot of the media companies, those kind of digital magazines and websites and have done great, whether it be AV Magazine and Rave and you know, AV Nation, and all of them have done a fantastic job of just making sure that the technology, I mean, I guess I can keep going and going and going, and the futures and all of them have done a fantastic job of just making sure that we're informed and knowing what's going on. And I think that's really been key. And that's what's driven me then to investigate websites. So, you know, as we're all busy, we're all trying to figure out what this kind of new world is like. None of us have time to sit there and go, okay, let me start with the A's and I'll go to Apple and then I'll go to the B's and I'm going to go to buy, right? You don't just start going through everyone's websites, but I think the media companies and those have done a fantastic job of their newsletters, of getting information out, using the socials to make sure that we're informed, driving us to there to then drive us to all of their, you know, the companies and their sponsors.
Okay, thanks. And George, what's your view on this?
Well, I think we have all certainly been quite busy in the last 18 months, despite of no shows or no physical shows, due to the amount of, as Joe was mentioning, the information that we have got through different channels, mainly or only digital channels, or by, let's say, living from what you saw in the last or in the previous 18 months prior to the pandemic. Therefore, as Joe was saying as well, there is no one particular place. You get feeds from the newsletter that you get. You get feeds from the industry. You also talk to people, regardless if you don't see them. Therefore, there is still a great contact and mouth-to-mouth message that works. And obviously, the digital world enables us to search immediately things that are available out there. And we've been communicated by also the show's digital platforms how the vendors or how their marketing plans we're going to be activated digitally or virtually this time.
Yeah, thank you. And Renard, your view on this one?
Yeah, I think George and Joe have pretty much covered it all. Right now, because we are in sort of the, still in the midst of the pandemic, it really has to do with those relationships that you've built over time. Spending those, a couple of minutes on the phone with someone and talking through what their roadmap is and understanding their actual needs are. So we focus a lot on, okay, what are we trying to do in the next 6 months? And then we kind of pair it to which vendors that we are aware of. And we go and we reach out to them. And then we also talk with some of our peers who may work either outside of our department or outside of our company and ask them, who are you guys looking at for certain things? And I get a lot of sort of referrals that.
And if a vendor came into you cold, what would encourage you to take that next step in the conversation with them? Is there something that captures your eye?
For me, I'm curious just simply by nature. So if I get something from someone cold, the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that it's not, filled with spyware, malware, or something like that. And then I go online and I'll do a little bit of an investigation about the company itself. Long before I'll respond back. If it's of interest to me, I may respond and simply say, hey, let's actually have a conversation. Because I'm not a person who likes to fill up their inbox with, tons of marketing emails that, to be honest, that gets really annoying. I would rather have a conversation with someone and then talk about their product. And then I want them to tell me who their customers are. Those customers.
Oh, interesting. So you would then go off on referral and talk to the customers that they've talked about in terms of their case studies. Interesting.
Yes,
interesting. And George, what about you? What catches your eye if somebody comes into you cold that you've not heard of before?
Yeah, as also Renard has said, you check the source first, and usually I tend to accept contacts better if they are conversations. Obviously, if they come through, let's say, your regular, let's say, feeds channels, like through the big shows or through the associations, through I don't know, a referral from someone. And it catches my attention definitely if it is something that is on the niche or on the specific things that I am probably or we are probably looking around to improve, to solve problems, to ride into the next step. Therefore, that's how it works normally with it.
And Joe, your view on this one?
No, I agree. I think it's hard if you look at. There's so many, especially now, so many inventive products that want to get out there. The problem is we don't have time, right? We're all taxed, and who gets that 15 minutes? So I'll say my pet peeve is, make me a LinkedIn connection, and then 15 minutes later send me hey, do you have an hour to come listen to my? No, I don't. But I also don't blame people for that, right? Especially when there's a lot of new products that can help us, with us, solve the problems that we're facing in this new world. So I think a lot of it, as was just mentioned, where is it?
I think we're having a few issues with Joe's connection. His background.
Oh, there we go. All right, I'm back. I think I'm back. But so I don't know how much of you that caught. I was like, all of a sudden, like, people are really, really interested because they're just dead stopped, but no, really, it comes from what was said that, who are the connections that you have? Do you trust where it's coming through? Can you follow it? And those are the people that then start to get the time. A cold call is probably not going to work for a lot of people, especially in my vertical, right? We just don't have the time. We don't have, a lot of resources even, and our planning is so far in advance. So, really what we want to know is are you putting the investment as a company? Are you putting investment as your sales reps to come out and make sure and talk to us, figure out the solutions, and then know, hey, I have used, and references are always good. Hey, I've made this connection at this institution. They've suggested I talk to you. Don't do that. Don't make it too salesy, but at least know that, hey, you've been vetted. And that's easier. I feel bad for the small person, the small company that's trying to build up and get a name out, because there's just so much coming at us right now, and it's hard to weed that through.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm always intrigued by this one. We all go to trade shows, and we're really hoping that we might get to at least one this year, and that they're always so big. And I know many of you have pre-arranged appointments. But what is it when you're walking through the show hall that would make you stop at a particular booth because it attracts your attention? Is it the messaging? Is it, you see a product and you think, wow, what is it that makes you stop? And George, maybe I can come to you on that one first.
It is a very interesting question, because you probably will not have time to go the whole hallways of a show like NAB or IBC. And I think number one is very much related to how actually those events price the space, but it's actually the location where you are, in which section you are placed. It's key. And that's the first, because you will tend to go more to, like us, to where the digital innovators are rather than the traditional broadcasts are. Even though there have been here and there some mixes, probably due to the space, a second would be, once you enter the space or once you walk around in the areas that you are interested, how this appeals to you. Obviously, to look for to find things in smaller hubs, in smaller spaces, is always more difficult unless you have the time. Therefore, that effort of the show, or obviously of the companies getting to the show, to be on the stage for you, like to be presented, to be communicated to you that they are there and what they could do, it would be really helpful. Because sometimes I've been, as an example, to the Mobile World Congress, is probably where the smallest spaces are sold, somehow in a corner. You cannot really realize. And I actually met the first time with a big one of the nowadays big vendor in an alternative, as an alternative products that were on the marketplace for, as an example, video analytics. And it was certain that they would grow, but that's the difficult part. And then how they engage with the audience. Obviously, some of them, they have traditionally have done attraction or events that they either communicate to you, or by someone, or they announce in the digest of the events, etc. Therefore, the event counts. So the event, or it attracts people. The events at the booth, and how that is presented by whom, and in which medium, let's say.
Yeah, interesting. And Joe, your thoughts?
It's interesting, because I started thinking more about this. So as we're talking about, if you think that it's interesting, because all right, I'm looking at the list of people in this meeting who are on right now, and a couple of names stick out as to people who take time to get involved in my vertical and get involved in wanting to, make sure that they understand my problems and my solutions, and the solutions that I need, right? The great Gina is in here, and she does that fantastic with our higher ed vertical. And I think that's, one of the things that then says, okay, now, does that make me go to your booth at an Infocom, at an ISC? The answer is absolutely yes. I don't need the shiny thing on the wall to make me stop. And in fact, I look at it this way. If you've got 5 days to set up a booth at Infocom, it better look good, right? Like if you're setting up and you're a projector manufacturer and you've got your closed box area, or you're a sound manufacturer and you've got if you can't make your own equipment look good in 5 days, then, there's a problem with that. So I'm less about, hey, this thing is hanging on a wall, I'm going to stop. But it's, have you invested in me enough to make me want to go? Right? That's where it is. What are those relationships? What is this? And every now and then, yeah, you walk down and you go, oh, what's that? That's kind of cool. Like something you've never noticed before. Sure. But I think it all comes back to, again, understanding the needs of the vertical that I'm at, making sure that you've made that connection ahead of time, as you started to say. We schedule out our meetings. We have those things done in advance. That's a fantastic way, by the way, because our schedules do get, so booked up, and it's so easy to kind of go down a rabbit trail, especially you kind of get around the backside or you get caught with people. So get those things ahead of time. Make sure that you've sent me a teaser of, hey, this is what we're going to, what to expect. I've heard you and I've seen you online talking about these challenges. We have a solution, and sometimes they can't share it publicly yet, but hey, I saw you tweet out you're having an issue with this. We have a solution. Can I book you for Wednesday at 11:30? That's a way to get me to stop by, because now I know that my time is valued, right? You've taken a look at what I need, you've listened to me, and you're making that extra step to say, hey, at least come take a look, right? And I think that that's kind of the key.
Yeah, and I think the key thing that you pointed out there, it's the work in advance. You can't expect just a drop in or a walk by anymore. You've got to put in that extra effort, haven't you?
Yep, absolutely.
Renard, your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think George and Joe, once again, they've hit on all of the key elements to it. I do think that establishing those relationships, that's a really good relationship with your salesperson, but also having a good relationship with their product engineers, and making sure that those pre-show conversations are happening. But I also think that establishing a non-disclosure agreement with the company, and making sure that you can get a little bit of insight to what their roadmap is prior to the show, and then planning whether or not they have a solution for you to see at the show that's going to meet your needs. Those things I think are really key to drawing me in. But I am one of those people, once again, I'm very curious, so I like to carve out time in my schedule whenever I am going to a show, so that I can do exactly what George said. I want to go to the innovation zone. I want to go to the back areas where the smaller booths are, and I just want to walk and talk with people. And a lot of what pulls me into the conversation is whether or not they have a solution for something that I'm trying to solve at that particular time. The lights and the visuals and all of those things. We're human beings, and yes, our brains and our sensory perception really pulls us into those things. However, I would be less likely to say, "Ooh, let me go and take a look at this flashy thing," and more likely to say, "Hey, that little booth over there is doing some really innovative work. I want to know more about that." And I like those types of conversations.
I want to add on to that. Sorry to take over your skills, but I think you just nailed something really important too, that makes me think about when you go to those innovation zones, because I know we wish we had more time at them, and we all want to sit there and you want to get into it. Also, this is just a note for anyone who's putting a booth together. Have an engineer there too, not just the salesperson or the person to scan your badge, right? Don't just be there to give me the marketing speak that I can get on by going to the website, or that you're already going to send me the "thanks for stopping by" email 3 days after, right? I get that, but have an engineer there. Talk about how this innovation can help me, right? Because we can't always see it. Like, we go there, we kind of get ideas, but show me, say, hey, this is where we've done this. How does this integrate? System is like, then have that engineer help me find the solution. And I think I've found a lot of products and purchased a lot of products because of booths have done that, who brought in an engineer beyond just the salesperson.
Excellent tip. Let's move on then. And I know some of you mentioned things that you don't like about vendors' sales and marketing approaches. So, Jorge, let's start with you. What really don't you like about some of the approaches some of the vendors in the market make with you?
Well, as we have said, in the last 18 months, we have got a lot of spam too, apart from interesting things to read. Therefore, as Joe was just saying, just using your email or your LinkedIn contact to try to explain something over email or or a message is for me, it's a bit dramatic, the situation, because you get a lot, and honestly, we don't have time to digest all again, unless it comes from a truthful source and something that you have read the referral. Otherwise, I personally dismiss unless I know where it's coming from, or it's a place that I know is coming well referred. What Joe was mentioning as well at the stands, just by the fact of scanning your badge and sending an email or with all the digest of the show later on doesn't work. The way I would engage with the product is if I have understood it in the 5-minute, 10-minute talk we will have. I mean, sometimes you get the luxury of half an hour really being on the product at the booth, personally speaking, will get my attention only if that happens at the booth. Otherwise, again, just by an email digest afterwards will not work. Therefore, it's also important that at the stands or the demos we do virtually, etc., the things that are presented and explained and we talk over are not only, let's say, proof of concepts, okay, that can be sold and rapidly spread around the commercial team to speak and pitch in the market, but they are really better and more mature. And I know this is sometimes a dream, but I think it works better when you have something ready, because if I see it and it is interesting, I would try to bring it into my, let's say, test bed as soon as I can. And if I bring a proof of concept, it's not the same if I bring a product. If I bring a proof of concept, later on, I will tell you that doesn't work, and we will continue the story. So that's something, again, that we also suffer in our environment, in our sports environment from my side. But it is really key as well.
And Renard, how about you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that is probably the most annoying to me is when I get an email with someone referring to me by my first name, as if they have all, as if they know me. I'm one, truly, let's take time to build a relationship. Reach out to me, be honest at the fact that, we have not met, but I'm curious about what you do, and I want to actually talk to you about what our product can bring. I'm really about the genuineness of relationships when we meet and how we build them. That's important to me. That doesn't mean I'm going to buy your product, but it does mean that maybe down the road I may be able to refer it to someone if we can build that. The other thing is that if you send me an email and it doesn't get a response, and then you send me a second one and it doesn't get a response, probably it's because I'm extremely busy and I can't respond to everything and I have to prioritize. It has nothing to do with your product or with you, but I've received some emails where individuals get upset that I have not responded after 3 emails. And so at that point I'm sort of like, well, even if I was interested in your product, I'm not really interested in working with you. And that makes a big difference for me. The other thing is, like Joe said, and like George said, get beyond the marketing speak. When you're trying to really get me interested in your product, tell me what it does. Tell me what it really does. And if you can, tell me in an email, how is it in that type of email is going to than sort of something that's very flashy or something like that. So those are the things that kind of annoy me.
And some good advice there as well, Renard. Some good advice. And Joe, how about you?
Yeah, that was solid. They both nailed the big things. But I will say this: I've never bought anything from someone I don't like. Okay, so if you've already upset me, and especially I think Renard noted that, like, combination of they send you an email on either through LinkedIn or just a normal email, and then 2 days later they'd reply to their own email asking why you haven't replied yet, and then 2 days later reply to their own reply asking applied yet. But I'm very lucky because they happen to have a slot open in 2 hours for me. I mean, I'm very lucky because it'll be the last slot they have. And then, of course, I make sure that to not respond to that one. And then I get the really upset, this is going to be my last time reaching out if you don't reach out to me. Well, there's a reason I didn't respond. Okay.
Yeah.
And and again, and I think it goes to one, it was bad tactics at the beginning, how to reach out to me, and then responding to an email saying, why haven't you responded, is probably going to make sure that I don't respond. And then, but also it is an understanding that we are all busy, right? We do have to prioritize things. We do have things, here in higher ed. I mean, I think I have lots of emails. I feel really bad. There's people I want to get back to, and I just haven't. I have tons of, meetings I've just had to cancel because we have, we're 2 weeks before semester start. We're all about getting everything ready. The first 2 weeks of the semester is our highest ticket volume of the year. And then the next 2 weeks is trying to figure out how to operationalize after we found all the kinks and then take this new hybrid world that we've just come back into. Well, that's 6 weeks to go MIA, and it's not personal. But I think a lot of times when you have people who use old, outdated marketing tactics, you make yourself look really bad in this new world. It make me not want to get you. And it's the same thing. If you do build a relationship, or you do say, and I've seen people go write the email and go, I understand this is the single worst time I could ever write you, but I do have a new product. I think it will be interested in you. You'd be interested in it. I'm going to either send it to you right now, sign the NDA, I'll send it to you, let me know when you can get to it, or can we book for 3 weeks from now? Do you have something that works? Like, that's an understanding of my situation, and then working. And those are the ones where I might, even if it's something I don't know, go, you know what? They took time to recognize what I'm going through. Yeah, I will give you that 15 minutes, right? You've earned it because you actually understood my problems from my point of view.
Some excellent feedback there. Spoke with some real true passion, and so I can imagine what your inbox looks like at the moment. Now, we are running out of time, but I wanted to thank you all for your contributions today, and thank you for joining us. The session's now over, but the next one is all about virtual events and combined with trade shows, which I think will be a good session to join. So hopefully see you all there, and thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks.